Hey guys, I'm the Sheikah, also known as Sheikah. I'm a Jamaican American woman of faith, businesswoman, and proud wife currently in a long distance marriage.
And I am Chris, also known as Mega, born and raised in Nigeria, a businessman, a husband, and I'm currently building across borders. And this is the Mega and Shika podcast.
Where we bring you real talk, big moves, and one love. We're here to talk about everything they don't teach you: cross cultural marriage, long distance love, building a business together, Nigerian laws, and faith driven legacy.
Whether you're dating internationally, planning a visa journey, or starting a business with your spouse, this space is for builders, believers, and bold love.
Let's get into it. Hey guys, welcome. This is episode 1 of the Mega and Sheikah podcast. Welcome.
Hey guys, welcome, my people. Welcome.
Babe, so we're going to go straight down to business. One of the reasons why I was so excited that we're starting the podcast was we get to respond to some of these crazy people that have been saying all these negative things on our comment section in TikTok.
Absolutely.
You saw one yesterday too. What was the one you saw yesterday that you were like, I want to respond?
The lady was writing that I think you are trying to secure the bag and do a whole lot of stuff for your husband and then secure the bag for him. I'm like, look at this crazy person. I have never been a TikTok person and I have never been an online person that tried to push myself out there that much, except for certain reasons, which is promoting the positive vibes we do. So I'm like, let me just let it go. But I understand one thing in life, when people are not happy, they don't want the next person to be happy. So it's just part of life. What can I say?
It's true, but you have a different view because the minute I saw those comments, my blood was hot. My blood was boiling. I'm like, are you serious? And I saw another lady one time that she was saying that that the people who are doing like mix and mingles or matchmaking, whatever, that they're doing it so they can sell their visa services. I was like,
Yeah,
what?
I don't know. I don't know if we are visa agents. That's why they just get that whole thing misconcepted. Like, a whole lot of people feel because you are giving some form of assistance, they feel you're working with the immigration or stuff. That it doesn't work that way. Try to have an idea or knowledge about something, be knowledgeable about something before you start making judgments. I mean, it's
Yes,
just crazy.
it's too crazy. I remember when we first started sharing, and first and foremost, guys, my husband is not the share my business on TikTok kind of person. The only part that he's interested in is the money making part. So that means our business that we have that are our professional business, not the current one we're doing. He would focus on that 100% and like sharing the business
Mm-hmm.
ads and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
He's not the one to be like, oh, let's share our personal life, let's share our story,
No,
let's share this. He's not that type of
that's not
person.
me. When it comes to family, I love to be private, because sometimes that privacy has a whole lot of way in helping you and keeping your union. But I found myself in a situation whereby I happen to be catalyst for the happiness of other people. So what do you expect me to do? I try to extend that same happiness and try to make sure those around me are cool the little way I can by using myself and my wife as a medium to give some kind of positive information that are being helpful to others. But people have a different view about it when you give them that information. They feel it's all about maybe making money, but that's not the case. Information is a commodity. They say if you're not informed, you're deformed. So we try to extend hands by giving cool information that we have. So it is what it is, though.
It's crazy. I don't think they think about it as information. As long as you're getting money from it, they feel like you're doing all of this. I even saw one person said something like, they're tired of me giving false hope to the women, all in the name of trying to get money for my husband. I'm selling false dreams and hopes to women. I'm like, what?
Let me tell you something, babe. Let me tell you something, babe. Jealousy plays a major role too. When people are jealous of what you bring to the table or what you're doing because they know they don't have that capacity, they can say anything they like. They can say whatever they want to say. But that doesn't stop us from being whom we are. That doesn't stop us from pushing. So we just keep doing our best and try to keep that good legacy which we've always tried to do. So I don't really care about what they say. I'm just being me. I'm just being positive. I'm just being real and keeping it straight ahead. Together we can
Absolutely.
achieve whatever goal it is. Sure.
Absolutely. I don't think a lot of people even take the time to understand most Nigerians. Most Nigerian men are very private. They don't share their family business online. The ones that you see sharing online, trust and believe me, is probably the wife who convinced them to share. They're very, very private. They're not the ones that's going to sign up and say, "Oh, let's go share." Majority of the times they only come in play, they only join it, join the play because there's money involved, because most of the times it's like, nope, I don't want to share my business. I don't want anybody in my business. And it's for more reasons
Hmm.
than one. But we're only taking the time out to tell people that, hey, if we see something, we're going to say something. So please be mindful of that. The negative energy,
Absolutely.
we won't give you too much attention on
Absolutely.
the negative energy, but just understand that if you say something and we feel like, hey, this is wrong or this is way off, we're going to respond to you. So be ready for that. The other thing is, a lot of people like to say, we're helping our man, we're helping our man. What's wrong with you helping your husband to get a bag? Like, I don't
I
understand what
see
the
that.
problem is.
I see that statement as a foolish statement, and a foolish statement is definitely going to come from a foolish person. Okay. The essence of marriage is a union. When you're married to somebody, you're not just all by yourself, you're two. So your partner should also play a role in supporting you mentally, emotionally, and otherwise. So when a woman supports her husband, or maybe you see them happy and stuff, a whole lot of them out there will just start having a different mindset. But I think it has a lot to do with maybe they themselves not being happy or not finding that level of happiness in their own relationship. you
True.
know so
Absolutely
they
true.
they they tend to go contrary to what the concept is all about. So marriage is
Absolutely.
something that is something that when you are in it full time. You don't just get married for child raising. There are so many things in marriage. There are so many sacrifices you make when it comes to marriage. You help your wife a lot in a whole lot of stuff, and your wife helps you in a whole lot of stuff. If someone should tell me that I'll be the one doing most of these things today, I won't believe it. But I had to do all of this because my wife has always been in it. She has been in the move. So as a supportive husband, I should support her in what she does. And through this now, I'm beginning to realize certain potentials in myself I never knew exist. So there are so many things in marriage that people don't know. And when
Absolutely.
you're not matured enough for marriage, don't dive into marriage. So a
Especially
whole
to a
lot of
Nigerian, especially
yeah.
to a Nigerian.
By maturity, I don't just mean by age. I mean mental reasoning and stuff. So you don't just see people happiness and you try to jeopardize it because you're not just happy. You just go to comment sections and start writing blah 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 blah. Mm-mm.
Speaking of marriage, yesterday I did a video giving a preview to the Nigerian marriage laws, and I discovered, I've always said there's two marriages and two legally recognized marriages in Nigeria. But you know me, and I like to go and dig. So yesterday, while I went digging, I wanted to also know, like, what does the U.S. think about Nigerian marriages? Do they know about the different types and which ones are recognized? And it turns out that the US recognized any marriage that is actually legal in Nigeria. So as long as you have proof of marriage, they recognize the marriage. So speaking of that, babe, I noticed that they said there was four types of marriages in Nigeria. Did you know there was four types of marriages in Nigeria? Because it seemed like a lot of Nigerians
Yes,
didn't know.
yes, there are four types of marriages in Nigeria. Sure.
So there's the African customary, which is the traditional, and that's the marriage and the divorce, the Islamic marriage and divorce. Then there is the Christian marriage and divorce, also known as the white wedding. And then there's the statutory marriage and divorce, which is the one that you do at the registry or
Yeah,
courthouse.
the third house marriage. Yeah.
Right. So then the customary marriage, one of the things I noticed is that it said that you have to have parental consent. That in the traditional societies, you have to have consent of the parents, even though these people are adults. Babe, what does that look like when they talk about consent from your parents for you to get married?
Oh, well, that consent is all about getting your family involved as your parents, having them play a vital role, which most people believe, and I'm of that belief too, that you need marriage blessings from your parents. So the consent is just a validation or approval from your parents before you get married. That's what it is.
Another thing I noticed in the customary marriages, they say that there was also capacity, and they describe the capacity as a person that is able to actually marry a person. And they also said that if the person is already in a monogamous marriage with somebody else, which is like a court marriage, um, or a Christian marriage, that they're not in capacity of being married under traditional marriage, which I think is interesting. So it's just saying, like, hey, if you went to the court and you married somebody, you can't come and marry somebody traditionally. So I honestly like that because it's when I say somebody, by the way, meaning a different person.
Hmm.
So
A
don't
different
get this
person. Yeah, I get
confused.
that point. I get that
Right.
point.
So it's not like for those of you who are listening, it's not like we're saying if your spouse marries you at the courthouse, they can't have a traditional marriage to you. They can. What we're saying is your spouse can't marry you at the courthouse
A different person and
and
get
bring a
married to a
different
different person
person.
traditionally.
Exactly. So I love that. Another thing is the bride price or dowry. That is also a requirement in a traditional marriage. So literally, if your spouse does not pay the bride price or the dowry, you're not even considered customary or traditionally married. Like some people will give you, they'll take a half, but you have to finish the rest of it. That is something very interesting, babe. Have you ever heard of anybody
Yeah,
who did some and didn't do the rest, and that was a problem?
yeah. Yeah, when it comes to traditional marriage, I want to strike this balance here. Traditional marriage is, we Africans, we practice it a whole lot. You understand? Because traditionally, you first see the parents of the lady or the bride before you can kick off to the courthouse wedding or the church wedding. So when it comes to traditional marriage, you pay the bride price, and before you do that, you take your kingsmen to the lady's parents or her family, and they do several traditional rites and stuff. Automatically, she becomes your wife after all that dowry and bride price has been paid. So is I just want to put it to people out there that traditional marriage is most practiced by Africans. Like the bride should be African. You understand? So if the bride is not African, then what you're doing is just a ceremony. Okay, like I see a
So
whole
like
bunch of
maybe like
I see
something
a whole
symbolic then, babe, is what you're saying. Like you're
yeah,
just doing
something
this for
symbolic to
symbolic.
that. Yeah, something
Okay.
symbolic to that. Absolutely, absolutely. So it's mostly for African ladies because you go to the girl's parents' place before the traditional wedding is done. There's something they call knocking of the door. That is an introduction, just to let
Oh.
the parents know that, yeah, knocking of the door, just to let the parents know that I have interest in your daughter. Okay. And that knocking of the door, you go with maybe one or two kingsmen. You don't have to be, you don't have to go with a whole lot of crowd. Maybe two or three persons are okay. Just to go there and show them that you have interest. And that's all. Okay. So most people, when they go for that knocking of the door, they just take the list. We call it bride price. You take the list. That's the prerequisite to get married to that lady. It comes in a hard copy. You know, when you request for it, they will present it to you. So you go and study it and know if you're capable of getting yourself involved in that marriage or not. So that's how they do it traditionally. So for a stranger or a foreign person who come to Nigeria and you say you're doing traditional, you just did something symbolic, like you said, it's not traditional wedding. So most times people be like, yeah, most times people be like, hey, I did traditional wedding. No, you just did something symbolic because the bride price wasn't paid. If you say your bride price was paid, did they pay the bride price to your father who is in Senegal or Cameroon or other country? I don't know if you get my point. So
Right, I
traditional
understand.
marriage is for people from Africa, like
African.
Nigeria, to be precise. Yeah.
And I actually noticed that on the description, it did said African customary. So it didn't say
Good.
traditional in the sense that it just applies to everybody. So maybe a lot of people don't even know that. It says African customary, meaning the bride is actually African.
Yeah, no, fair enough. Because most times when I go online, I see foreigners saying they're doing traditional wedding. I'm like, oh, this is just a ceremony. You don't turn tradition upside down. I'm someone that loves tradition, so you don't turn tradition upside down. Tradition has been there for ages, even before we emerged as a adults. So you don't turn it upside down.
Okay, got you, got you. Another thing is that another part of the traditional marriage or customary marriage is that there's a final part of it, of the ceremony, that is called the giving away of the bride. And the giving away of the bride is something that is actually a requirement. Sometimes I know in Igbo culture, this is the part where the father would bless the man and kind of like, tell me a little bit about that one,
Mm-hmm,
babe.
mm-hmm.
The
Okay.
giving away of the bride.
Um, Yeah, giving away of the bride. There is this interesting section or interesting segment of traditional marriage. That is the men marriage. When you say you're going for a traditional marriage, after the dowry has been paid, that day of celebration, the men segment is when you see the bride giving the husband wine, a cup of wine. In Igbo land, that's how we do it. You present your husband a cup of wine, a glass of wine to drink, and then when that wine is being taken by your husband, you see the husband standing up, maybe giving you like a token. You understand? That money is the symbol of that money is like is a form of appreciation for giving me that wine. You understand?
Okay, so
So the
she's
husband,
basically serving her husband, and that's not just any wine, that's palm wine, right?
yeah, palm wine, palm wine. But most times people use wine. I don't know. That's why I said some persons turn tradition upside down. It all depends on the level of. It all depends on the level of understanding or how educated your father is traditionally. My father wouldn't do something like that. You have to present pure wine. So when the husband has consumed that wine, he'll put his hand in his pocket and take a token in appreciation of that wine that the wife gave to him. Then from there, they step down, they move down to where the bride's parents are. That is the most important segment and receive their blessings.
So that
That is the
receiving
most
the
important
blessings,
segment.
that receiving the blessings is what we in America would call giving away the bride. So the blessings where the groom and the bride and the groom is usually sometimes they're kneeling in front of their parents. Um
Absolutely.
uh, that's when they would, that's the giving away of the bride. And then that is something that is a requirement in traditional marriages. So if you ever say you've done a traditional ceremony and that part is not included, just understand based on Nigerian law, you wasn't
Yeah.
given away. So
You just did an occasion. You just did a ceremony.
you just did a little symbolic thing. So guys, the
Absolutely.
bottom line is when it comes to a traditional marriage, there is four things that have to be involved in order for it to be legal in Nigeria. Number one, you have to have consent. That's consent from the parents, the bride's parents. Number two,
Sure,
the
that's how it should be. You don't just go take someone's daughter without their consent.
exactly. And then
Hmm.
number two is you have to have the capacity, meaning that under the customary law, you have to be able to get married, meaning you're not married to somebody else that you marry at the courthouse, or you're not trying to marry somebody that's underage. That's another big thing. And number three, you have to pay the bride price or the dowry. So if the bride price was never paid, you're not married. And then number four is the giving away of the bride, which is the one that we just talked about in a customary marriage. So when you guys are hearing about traditional marriages and da 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 da, just understand that if none of this took place, according to Nigerian law, that is definitely not legal. Like
Traditional marriage, yeah.
it's not a
Absolutely.
traditional marriage. Now, when it comes to
Yeah.
traditional divorces, babe, I noticed that in some of these marriages, and I'm going over the customary marriage because the statutory marriage or the court marriage, it kind of like it speaks for itself. You go to the court, you go and you just fill out the paperwork and everything, you get married at the court. But I really wanted to
Hmm.
tell you guys about the traditional one. the customary one. Now, I'm not Muslim, so I don't know about the Islamic marriage, but I'm just telling you guys about the customary. For those of you who are in a long distance relationship and you go to Nigeria and you get married and you're doing traditional, if you don't have all four of those elements, you're not legally married traditionally. So
Absolutely. Absolutely.
you're just doing
Absolutely.
something symbolic. Um, now, according to this, babe, when it comes to divorces and traditional marriages, it's not just something you just do because you're tired of the person or you just can't be bothered anymore. Divorce and customary marriages, they have to have number one, you have to have a valid reason for divorce.
The rate of divorce in traditional marriage is lower than compared to any other form of marriage because people respect tradition a lot, one. And before your conflict or crisis with your partner gets to that level of divorce, the same way the consent of the parents was sought before getting married, that's the same way they will also play a major role in peacemaking. That way, trying to bring you both together and make sure things
To
are
try to help
cool,
you
so
to
that way they can be absolutely, so they can help you fix the issues where necessary. So before you see someone, and there's another thing they do, the same way they paid that bride price, that's the same way you go, they will refund you that bride price too. I'm telling you the truth. When there's divorce, they just refund you the bride price. That is Igbo tradition for you. I don't know about other traditions, but Igbo tradition, the bride price is refundable. And when once that bride price is refunded, that's the end of the marriage.
got you.
Automatically,
One
you don't have anything to do with their daughter again.
one interesting thing that I saw on the customary divorce or traditional divorce is that prior to modern times, it was impossible to get a divorce. So no matter what it is that was going on in that marriage, you were expected to stay like literally till death do us part. But
Sure, sure, sure.
now in modern times, they now say that you have to have grounds for divorce. Grounds meaning you have to have a reason, and not just any reason. There are some moral reasons. You have to have justification as to why you want to end the marriage. Now, some of
Yeah.
these are very, very interesting. For example, before you even consider divorce, both families have to come together to talk about the issues before you consider divorce. And there's local court, which is kind of like a customary or traditional court that can intervene, but there's a process to it. So you can't just get up and say, "Hey, I want a divorce. Let's go meet your family." No, if you're having trouble, you go meet the family. They will try to help you to resolve the issues, just like my husband stated earlier. And then if they can't help you to resolve the issues, then you go to the local or customary court. They will still try to help you to resolve the issues. And then if you can't resolve the issues and they recommend divorce, then you can proceed with the process of getting a divorce. And that in itself is a process. But so, talking about the grounds of divorce, this is basically one of the biggest things is what you just stated, babe, the return of the bride price. So, if you intend to get a divorce, just understand that the bride's family has to return that bride price as a symbol that they have agreed to the divorce. If they have not done that, you have to continue with the process until they do that. So that means you're probably going to have
Sure.
to go to the local court. Now, the grounds for divorce, the first one I notice is adultery. Adultery, meaning that you
Yeah,
cheat.
that's the number one. That's the number one, and it's common here. That's the number one. That is the number one.
And
Hmm.
then number two,
That's
I also noticed that it talks about cruelty to the wife. Cruelty to the wife.
hmm
So this is like if the wife is, being abused or something, that is also another ground for
Domestic
divorce.
violence,
Right. I
domestic
see.
violence, and all of them.
Exactly. And I also see here commission of serious crimes such as murder, incest, or even theft can be grounds for divorce. So if you're a thief and she realizes that you're stealing, or he realizes that you're a thief, he can ask for divorce. Um, Another one I noticed, babe, is that they said failure to complete the marriage payment. Um, if you agreed to pay it in installments, like say you say,
Mhm.
listen, I'll give you two payments and you give
Yeah,
one.
that very one is not common here, though. It's not common. You rarely hear people saying. Most times, most cases, people don't even pay everything completely, and they get married and raise kids. It all depends on the kind of in-law you have, you know. Most people are of the view and opinion that they are not selling their daughter for you. Just make sure you're cool with their daughter and make sure their daughter is happy. That's just it. So I have seen a guy that that was living with a Cameroonian girl, and they stayed together until had a miss, and he had to do everything instead of paying bride price. He had to pay just like a dead price instead of bride price. So he had to do
Oh,
everything
wow.
from the
So
beginning.
he had to
Yeah. So
pay for
just
the
to
funeral and everything else.
absolutely, it was just a crazy experience for him, like a young guy. So, but
Wow.
it's very, very empirical for one to do the needful. I mean, this is someone's daughter, so just tradition is tradition. Observe tradition when necessary. Tradition is tradition.
Another grounds for divorce is neglect or failure to make adequate provisions or maintenance of your wife. This one's a big one because it's like it's saying if you can't take care of your wife, she can ask for a divorce.
That part is very, very important, especially during courtship. Most things that most times the reason behind most of this problem is when you don't present yourself the real you to your wife or your spouse, you don't present yourself like the original self. You just give them that view of you being okay and all that. But when they dive into marriage, they see a different version of you. You understand? Most people live fake lifestyle, and it's always I always advise guys when you're dating present your ensure your fiancé or your wife to be sees you the way you are, like present yourself, your original self. Don't go giving her that view that you're rich and famous while you don't have anything, and the view she is seeing you is quite different from how you are at home. So when you both start living as husband and wife, you won't be able to pay most of the bills and do most of the things she expects you to do, and it becomes a problem. That's where the problem starts. That's how you see people cheating and doing all sorts of nonsense in marriage. Always tell your wife the truth. Present yourself the way you are originally. Someone that loves you will love you for whom you are. But when you start
Absolutely.
presenting yourself the wrong way, it will become a problem. It will become an issue when you guys are married. So whatever you um keeping up in courtship, always have it in mind that you will see times two of that in marriage. So just present yourself the real way you are, and no fake life. No, don't fake it. Someone that loves you will be with you despite what.
Absolutely. Another one, babe, is infection of one spouse by the other spouse with an incurable disease. Um, This is wild. This is saying that if you infect your spouse with a disease that can't be cured, or if they infect you with a disease that can't be cured, either one of you can ask for a divorce. I found that very, very interesting.
But does it even make sense? It doesn't make sense. If you ask me, it doesn't make sense. Why? Okay, let's say the wife has a HIV or AIDS, and you infect your husband. You both know that you both are carriers of that very virus. The best thing
Wow.
to do is it to divorce? Is it to divorce? I mean, I don't see that as a reasonable stuff. It would even make more sense that by saying, I think when one partner has it, the other partner can leave if they want, which still doesn't make sense to me
Yeah, because I'm
because
saying if they have
if
it, they said infection, that means both of you now have it. So infection
yeah, both
means
of you now
they
have it.
have infected you
So
with something.
yeah, both of you now have it. So what's the essence of living when you already have that crisis?
You leave
Are you
because you're
going out
mad.
there to are you going out there to inflict other people of the same infection you have? It doesn't make sense now. That is you encouraging an infected person to go out there and spread the disease. Just the way they said in the Bible, go out there and multiply. You're telling them to go out there and multiply the disease. So it
Oh
doesn't make
God.
sense.
Um,
They say when you're getting married to your partner at the altar, they say for better for worse. So cases like this happen. You reflect back that statement that said for better for worse. At least you both can um, stay together, take the necessary treatments, and encourage yourselves instead of running away. Whom are you running? Are you running away to meet your ex, or you're running away to meet a new person and infect them? That's totally wrong. It's totally
Got
wrong.
you.
If you ask me, sure.
I definitely understand where you're coming from with that one. Another one is persistent disrespect or disgraceful behavior in front of the spouse, either spouse's parents. Um, that is, it says persistent disrespect or disgraceful behavior in front of either spouse's parents. Um,
I I don't even
that's like
support that
saying if
one
your
at all.
wife is disrespectful to your parents, or if your
Mhm.
husband is disrespectful to the parents, to the wife's parents. What do you think about that one, babe? Disrespecting
I
parents.
I don't support that one at all, at all, at all.
When you say you
Because
don't support it, do you mean that you don't support that they could divorce if
no, I
someone's
don't. Yeah,
disrespectful?
I don't. Why not? I don't support a wife or a husband disrespecting their in-law. It's totally wrong. It's
Oh, I
totally
see.
wrong.
So you're saying that you
Because
don't
if
support
you
the disrespect.
sure, I don't support the disrespect because it will cause more harm than good in that union. It will cause more harm than good. As a wife, you're supposed to be cool and respectful to your mother-in-law or your father-in-law. You understand? Disrespect is a no-no. Myself, if I get married to a woman that disrespects my parents, I don't think that marriage will extend for even 3 months. I'm going to divorce that lady because your wife should be your peace in your house, in your home. Your wife should be an agent of peace, and even if there is some kind of a misunderstanding between your wife and your parents will communicate that with you, and you caution your wife. Then when she fails to listen, you just do the needful because you wouldn't want to keep a time bomb in your house. It doesn't make sense. A wife that disrespects your parents will definitely not respect you. That's just the
Got
truth.
you. I
Mhm.
agree. Another reason that terms or grounds for divorce is impotence or physical incapacity to have normal sex. What? Hey,
This one you're laughing.
this
This one you're
is
laughing like this. What do you think
knocking.
about that one? I want you to answer that one yourself.
Uh, why
This one you're laughing.
why are Nigerian men um so serious about knocking? Why are Nigerian men so serious about knocking? I want to know why are
It's
you
not
guys
just.
so
It's
serious
not
about
just.
sex?
Let's just be honest to ourselves. It's not just a Nigerian man thing. It's a general thing. It's not just a Nigerian man thing. That's a natural phenomenon. It's not just a Nigerian man.
Okay,
You, my wife.
so
You, my wife. Don't you like nagging?
oh my God. But I mean, to the part where it's like grounds for divorce if you're not
It's
able
crazy
or you
though.
don't.
It's crazy. That sounds awkward though.
It's actually it's wild, but that's grounds for divorce. If you can't if he's impotent, like if he can't, do the deal, or if she don't want to do it, they you can actually get divorced. But I'm also looking at this case study that they had back in, and this is from a tribe, the Tiv tribe. You know the Tiv tribe, babe?
Yeah, TV, yeah. You find
Right.
them in Benue State, yeah.
Okay. So there was a
Mhm.
there was a wife that actually asked for a divorce from her husband because he was impotent, and also because she said that he was a little insane and that he was not very compatible with her sexually. And the law basically provides that there was no divorce that would be valid without them actually going to the native court to prove their point. So to me, I'm like, how do you prove that the man can't do it? How do you prove man? How do you prove that the man is not capable of knocking now? How would you prove that to the court that he can't do it? Um, I don't know, babe. How do you figure this one would go? Like, how do you think they can actually prove this that the man can't do
Yeah,
it?
doctors in the house will answer that question. I'm not a medical doctor. Yeah, doctors in the
Doctors,
house will answer that question. I'm not
guys,
medically inclined.
Guys, if you're watching, if you're listening to us through YouTube, let us know in the comment section, how would this wife go about proving, because they're telling her she needs to prove that her husband is incapable of, doing the deed. So how do you think she would be able to prove that to them, and not the state or statutory courthouse? They're talking about the local court. This is the elders and the
I have,
kingsmen and
I have a suggestion. Maybe a CCTV camera installed in their bedroom will give that proof.
CCTV. Oh my God. Who wants to be
Yeah.
recording themselves in that to go
When,
share it with the
when,
natives?
when, when she tried to do the needful and he's not responding to stimulate, so that way you would just know that yes, 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 this one is a dead man walking.
Oh my God. That is absolutely wild. So, babe, for those ladies who are ladies and gentlemen, by the way, that are well, I'm going to talk about the ladies separate. For the ladies that are getting married to Nigerian spouses, would you encourage them to only do a traditional marriage, or would you encourage them to do both the courthouse and the traditional, or just the courthouse? What would you encourage them to do when it comes to marriage?
Yeah, like I said earlier, it's all dependent on where the lady is coming from. If she is Africa, I will encourage them to do both. But if she is someone who isn't from Nigeria, the courthouse is cool. I mean, that is internationally recognized, because when it comes to marrying someone overseas, the traditional wedding is a wedding, though it's not all that recognized globally. I think the courthouse comes first when it comes to global recognition and stuff. So it all depends on where the lady is coming from. That's what I believe. It all depends on where the lady is coming from. And being an African lady, before you do the courthouse, you definitely has done the traditional wedding. Okay, your husband to be will definitely recognize your family before delving into the courthouse wedding, because
Absolutely.
that is the primary thing to do. So that way your family can validate that marriage. That is the primary thing to do. If you don't do the traditional wedding, there's no approval. The traditional wedding is just like giving you a visa to do whatever wedding you want to do. That's if you are from Africa. So that is the primary thing to do, the
And
traditional wedding as an African.
another thing is that I want you guys to understand, for those of you who are from the West or you're not from Nigeria or Africa, when it comes to marriages in these regions, in Africa, especially in Nigeria, it's not just about you marrying the love of your life. It's about you, two families coming together. So when you don't go through the cultural or traditional means of marrying your spouse, you have not united the two families. So in their eyes, if you have a problem with
Mhm.
that spouse, they're not going to get involved and try to intervene and try to help, because you didn't involve them in the
Sure.
marriage. You didn't get consent. Remember, I talked
Yeah,
about it
because
earlier.
they will just see you both as a boyfriend and girlfriend. They won't see you on the basis of marriage. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
They will just the girl's parents will definitely see you guys as boyfriend and girlfriend. I
Right.
have
It's
seen a
like you have to.
situation whereby someone be like, "Hey, what of your daughter and her husband?" The man said, "Oh, which husband? Did my
Oh,
daughter
wow.
tell you she's married? Did my daughter
Oh,
tell you she's married?" And this daughter has two kids with the guy, but nothing has been done. So the man is like, "Did my daughter tell you she's married?" I'm like, "Oh, really?" Because he hasn't paid the bride price. So you need to do the needful, which is recognizing the in-law, recognizing the bride's father is a form of respect and a form of not just respect to the in-law, but a respect to tradition. So,
absolutely. And I would
yeah,
encourage the ladies in the West, when you're going to Nigeria, I encourage you to actually go ahead and do a marriage at the court or the registry, and you can do the other traditional stuff for significance. Um,
the symbolic one.
the
Yeah.
symbolic, right? Symbolic is what we're going to call it, because a lot of
Mm.
times people get that all twisted. They think that, oh, I got married traditionally. No, it's actually just for symbolic reasons, right? Um,
Mhm.
and also, if you are getting married to someone that has never been married at the registry before, it doesn't mean that they have not been married traditionally before. So this is why it's important for you to meet the family. go and visit their home, go visit the village and things like that, so that you can open your ears and your eyes to see whether or not there's any signs of maybe the fact that he already has a wife. Because it won't take very long for you to catch
Yeah,
on to that if he was married traditionally and then he introduces you
that
as
is
his
true.
wife. So
Hmm.
do your research and do your homework, and never ever feel like you don't need to meet the family. Some people might tell you they don't have family. Now it's possible that someone may have lost their parents. That is definitely true. But for them to not have any living family members, now I don't know, but I would not jump into a marriage like that. I would want to learn a lot more. Um, about what happened to the family, not just because I'm investigating and I feel like I want to avoid people scamming me or love bombing me or whatever. I want to find out more because also Africa is a spiritual place. It's a very spiritual place. And if there is something spiritually going on and that is the reason why all the family members are gone, I don't want to be in that family. Like, I don't want to marry you, sir.
So here's
Because
the thing.
why
Well,
why is everybody
here's the
falling
thing.
over?
When you when you come across someone overseas or someone from the West, and they say they did traditional wedding, I have something to tell you so you can ask them. Just ask them who took your bride price.
Mm,
Who took your bride price? Yeah, just ask them that question. Who took your bride price? Ask them that question and hear what they have to say. Did your dad
yeah,
take your bride price? Did your dad present the list and the prerequisites for your marriage? So if
got you.
those things are not done, you did not observe tradition. That is not tradition because the traditional marriage is an African tradition. It's not a Western tradition. So
Absolutely.
people do it for significant reasons. So
So, ladies, there you have it. You have heard it. So, guys, that is it for our episode 1 of the Mega and Shika podcast. Thank you guys so much for listening. And on this
yeah,
podcast,
thank you guys. Thank you so much.
depending on what platform you're listening to us on, if it's on YouTube, let us know what's going on, what you think about some of the things we talked about in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe.